It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. Dictionary. It's the dictionary. It's the dictionary.
Hello, word nerds, and welcome to the dictionary hosted by me, Spencer. What's up with your faces? I think you're beautiful. Let's talk about the words. The first word is the third form of the word fine. F-I-N-E. Fine, it's fine. Ooh, this is an adjective from the 13th century. So many definitions here. Number 1A is free from impurity. There is nothing impure about it. It's fine. No example, but we do have a 1B, which is talking about a metal. A metal, it is having a stated proportion of pure metal in the composition expressed in parts per thousand, as in the example, a gold coin 0.9166 fine. I've probably seen that before, especially when they have those ads for those collectible coins of the Olympics, and here's a special coin that we made or something like that, and it says how fine it is. What's its pureness? But I never knew what the fine meant. So, having a stated proportion of pure metal in the composition expressed in parts per thousand. So, is 0.9166, does that mean that gold is 91.66% pure gold? What is the other percentage? Why can't you make it 100% pure? Fine. It's fine. 2A1. Very thin in gauge or texture, as in fine thread. What would not fine thread be? Is that thread that's like 1 inch wide? That thread is not fine at all. It's not thin. That's some big-ass thread. Number 2A2. Not coarse, as in fine sand, or I would like to add fine sandpaper. You can get sandpaper in a whole wide range of coarsenesses. What's the word that we use there? Textures? Grains? I don't know if we use grains there. But yes, so not coarse means that your sandpaper has very small bumpiness. That's the proper term. And then it starts off very, very like that, very fine. And then it gradually gets more coarse, where you got bigger bumps on the sandpaper to work on different types of material or whatever. Ooh, I just had a little spittle fly out of my mouth. How attractive. That was fine. 2A3, very small. The synonym is fine print. I am wearing a t-shirt right now that has some text on it. It's very fine print, especially on HD video. It's pretty tiny. It's fine. 2A4, the synonym is the word keen, K-E-E-N, as in a knife with a fine edge. And I guess we will just have to wait until the K's to learn about what this definition of keen means. I think of like a keen mind, a sharp mind. I bet you the word sharp is going to pop up there. So yes, a knife with a keen edge, but the word is fine. So it's a knife with a fine edge. Oh, what a fine edge you have there, knife. Thank you. I sharpened it myself this morning. 2A5. Wow. Very precise or accurate, as in a fine adjustment, like maybe on the radio stations with those old school knobs. You got to make some fine adjustments to get it right there on that radio station that you're looking for. There's another example. Trying to be too fine with his pitches. Trying to be too fine with his pitches. Well, that feels like a weird sentence, but maybe we're talking about your pitches, throwing a ball, throwing a baseball. Yes, if you are a baseball pitcher or maybe a cricket pitcher, I don't know what they call them there, you are going to want to be very fine, very precise with where you are throwing the ball, what spin are you putting it? How fast are you throwing it? You want to be very accurate in that. But also, with his pitches, fine with his pitches, maybe he's an oboe player and he wants to have just the best perfect pitch when he's playing his oboe. Oh, we got to 2B. How exciting. Physically trained or hardened, close to the limit of efficiency. This is used of an athlete or an animal, which makes sense. Physically trained or hardened, close to the limit of efficiency. There is no example sentence. So what you're saying, the athlete is fine, the animal is fine, the cheetah is fine because it has been over thousands and thousands of years probably trained to be the fastest land animal. Close to the limit of efficiency. They're using their body in the most efficient way possible, I guess. Yeah, I don't really know how to use that in a sentence. That animal is fine. Number 3. Delicate, subtle, or sensitive in quality, perception, or discrimination, as in a fine distinction. Yes, subtle, I think, is the good word to use here. That's how I like to think of a fine distinction, a subtle distinction. Oh, there's not so much of a difference between one episode to another in this podcast. It's a very subtle difference. Delicate, subtle, sensitive in quality, perception, discriminate. It depends on what we're talking about. All those words are very good words to use. 4. Superior in kind, quality, or appearance. And the synonym is excellent, as in the examples. A fine job, or a fine day, or fine wines. Fine. They are of the utmost quality, most excellent. Bill and Ted's Fine Adventure. It has a different sort of ring to it when you put it that way. But this one is supposed to be all about things that are superior. This is a fine podcast. It is up in the upper echelons of the best podcasts ever. Number 5A. The synonym is the number 1 definition for the word ornate, as in the example, fine writing. When I hear that phrase, I don't think of ornate at all. That is confusing to me. I think of possibly the previous one about superior in quality. Ooh, that writing is so fine. It's so wonderful. That writing couldn't be any better. Or I also think of, it's fine. Fine, right? It's fine. It is a word. This word fine has a lot of, there's a spectrum of feelings, of emotions, of qualities that this could be. Most of them seem like it's about the most thing, the most thin, very small, physically trained to the utmost possibilities, the highest quality, etc. But not all of them. I think we're going to see some that are, because I think of fine, I think of middle of the road. Okay, what else do we got? 5B is marked by, or affecting elegance or refinement, and fine is in refinement, as in fine manners. I don't have fine manners. I don't want to have fine manners. I want to just be myself. Marked by affecting elegance or refinement. I think it would be fun to put on some fine manners sometimes, but maybe not for real. Maybe for fun, for silliness purposes. I don't know. 6A, very well. That's the definition. The synonym is feel fine. How you doing? I feel fine. I feel very well. I don't feel bad. I don't feel sad. I don't feel glad. I feel fine. 6B. The synonym is all right. 2 words. This all right is 2 words. All right. Everything's correct. Maybe. As in the example, that's fine with me. That's all right with me. Howdy doody. That's great. You want to go see a movie at 8? Let's go. let me put on my skates. Number 7. This is no definition. There is no definition for 7, but it says it is used as an intensive. As in the example, the leader, in a fine frenzy, beheaded one of his wives. Are we talking about Henry VIII? That is a quote from Brian Crozier. There's an R there. Or Crozier. I don't know how Brian pronounces his last name. The leader, in a fine frenzy, beheaded one of his wives. It's an intensive. That frenzy was very intense. I would say that's one of the most intense frenzies you could possibly have if you get out your machete and cut off the head of your wife. One of his wives. How many wives does he have? Does he have a harem? Okay, fineness. Fineness is a noun. Where does this word come from? I'm guessing it comes from maybe possibly like the fine thread, where was that word? What am I looking for? Maybe I'm thinking of filament. But anyway, this is from Middle English, from the Latin finis, which means end or limit. That's where this comes from. The end, the final countdown, the final thing. That's why all of these were about like the most. It's reached its end of how much it could be that thing. Very small, fine print, fine thread. You can't find thread or print any finer, any better, any smaller. Okay, well, makes me wonder about why do I think of the word fine as just middle of the road? Like, okay, fine. Maybe one of these other forms will have that. What's the sound effect? Oh, we're going to go, ooh. The fourth form of the word fine is an adverb from the 14th century. Number 1, the synonym is finely, which I think is coming up in this episode. Yep, very soon. But we got some sub-definitions as 1A, very well. I think we saw that in the Yep, very well, very well. You can do something fine, finely, very well. Spencer's talking fine. 1B. The synonym again is all right. All right, all right, all right. But when I think of all right, I sometimes think of all right one word with one L, but this is 2 words. All right. Number 2. With a very narrow margin of time or space. As in the example, she had not intended to cut her escape so fine. And that is a quote from Melinda Beck et al. It's Melinda Beck and others. Multiple people wrote whatever this thing was that this quote came from. She had not intended to cut her escape so fine. It was so narrow. When Indiana Jones is going under the big stone door that's coming down, he had a very fine escape. He escaped finely. That was he cut his escape very fine. He even somehow he had time to even pull his hat from the other side, and he didn't get squished at all. Okay. Ooh. Now we have the 5th form of fine. Verb from the 14th century. Time to scoot up the book so he can see it better. Number 1, the synonyms are purify and clarify, as in fine and filter wine. Purify, clarify. So wait, this is the verb. So you're doing the action of fining, fine and filter wine. I know of filtering wine, so I guess you can also fine wine. You can fine wine to make the wine fine? Is that a possible thing to do? Purifying and clarifying it. I want just the most pure, clarified wine. Number 2, to make finer in quality or size. Oh, I don't think I said we are starting with transitive. Those were transitive. to make finer in quality or size. Your thread, your text, your athlete, your animal. Go find that athlete. Train them until they are the most efficient. Now we have intransitive number 1, to become pure or clear. So the wine is fining because someone else is fining it. The example is the ale will fine. The ale will fine on its own. It will become pure or clear. Is this some sort of chemical process that happens to the ale? Maybe there's other alcohols. They just fine on their own. They're just fine. Number 2, to become smaller in lines or proportions. To become smaller in lines or proportions. I don't know what sort of lines or proportions these are, but they are fining because they're getting smaller. They're getting to their final stage of evolution. Ooh. Now we have the 6th form of fine, which is the finest form of fine because it's the last form of fine. This is a noun from circa 1798, and the end. Oh, hey, wait a minute. We got to double check the pronunciation. The pronunciation. Don't jump ahead because this one has a different pronunciation. Pronunciation? It is pronounced fine. Fine. Oh, yes. Very important. Because the synonym is just end. That's what it is. Fine. This is used as a direction in music to mark the closing point after a repeat. I played music for a long time, and I know that I came across this, but I don't specifically remember. It's just like this is the end. This is the time when you're going to end the repeat, and you're going to now play the fine. I'm trying to remember. To mark the closing point after a repeat. I think if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you music people, but there's a repeat. There's a symbol that tells you to repeat, and then you go back to the point where it tells you to repeat to, and you play that. But then the part of the repeat you don't play when you get to the end part, and you jump ahead and you play the fine, and that's the part. That's the end. And then the song is over, and everybody can go home and take a nap. Fine, very important because it's Italian, from the Latin finis, which means end, which is the same etymology that we had for the word fine, but that became fine and this stayed fine because it's Italian. All right. Well, I find it so interesting that I don't really feel like any of those adjective definitions were really kind of how I automatically think of the word fine. All right, I guess, would be the closest one. It's all right. It's fine. Very well is kind of similar. So those two are probably the closest ones. But yes, what do you think of the word fine when you hear it? Do you think of the most, the best, or do you think of that's just fine? And it depends on context, obviously. There's a lot of different contexts on how to use this word. How are you feeling today? Fine. That is sort of accurate. Not really. Not at all. Ooh. Now we have fine art. Noun from 1739. That art is so small and so tiny. Fine art. 1739. 1A. Art, as painting, sculpture, or music, concerned primarily with the creation of beautiful objects. It is usually used in plural, the fine arts. Now, I am confused by this. I have an issue with this. When I was in high school, we had fine art classes and we had applied arts classes. And if I remember correctly, the applied arts, like I took one applied arts class, which was metal sculpture. How is that in applied arts? Is it something that's more practical? Is applied arts things that are more practical? Like you can learn these metal sculpture techniques like welding uh, to use that to become a metal worker. That is a very practical skill, a practical art. But fine art, the way that I'm thinking about this was maybe painting, drawing, ceramics, music, maybe acting, maybe less practical in those senses. But this says that it's primarily concerned with the creation of beautiful objects. And I think that there are artists out there who are not necessarily trying to make something beautiful. They're trying to make something that's artful, arty, has a statement, says something about themselves or the world or whatever, but not necessarily beautiful. Usually beautiful, yes. So I guess that's why they get around that by saying primarily. But even that, I don't know. What is fine art to you? What is art even? I mean, that's the biggest question of our lives. Not really, but kind of. What is art? So what is fine art? Fine art, is there just regular art and then there's fine art? You're only going to find fine art in a gallery. You're not going to find regular art. I don't know. It's a topic for discussion, and I would like you to have that discussion right now. Go ahead. Okay, now we have 1B, which is objects of fine art. Okay, number 2, an activity requiring a fine skill. An activity requiring a fine skill. Oh, they are so good at that skill of sewing. So that is a fine art, because that is their art, and they are very fine at it. Whoo! Now we have finally. Finally, we got to finally. No, this one is fine and then ly, because it is an adverb from the 14th century, in a fine manner, as a extremely well. The synonym is excellently. Excellently. Yep, it's just we had the fine adverb before. This is all very similar. The example here is plays the hero very finely. And that is a quote from the New Yorker. Who were they talking about? A police person? A fire person? Somebody else who's helping somebody else? They played the hero very finely, very excellently. They did a great job at playing the hero. Right now, I'm recording this when the crazy, crazy fires are going on in LA, and I sure wish that we had a superhero who could stop the fires. B, with close discrimination, and the synonym is precisely. Yes, with close discrimination. So you're doing something finely. Maybe when you are painting the Sistine Chapel roof ceiling on the head of a pin, you are doing it very finely. You have to be very precise because it's so tiny. That's some fine art right there. C, with delicacy or subtlety. The synonym is sensitively, as in a leader finely attuned to the needs of the people. They know exactly what the people want. They know some people want that and some people want that, and they know both things. B, the synonym is minutely. We're talking about something very tiny here, as in finely ground meal. Now we're not taking your burger and potatoes and grinding it into a meal, or that is your meal that we are grinding finely. No, we're talking about probably corn or wheat or something like that, where you grind it very finely, very minutely. The particles are now very, very tiny, not big, coarse material, whatever stuff, particles. When you are grinding coffee, you have to figure out, do you want it coarsely ground or finely ground? Perfect example, Spencer. Oh, well, thank you for that compliment. Woo! Now we have fine print. 2 words. Noun from 1951. Something thoroughly and often deliberately obscure, but especially a part of an agreement or document spelling out restrictions and limitations, often in small type or obscure language. We don't ever read the fine print. We probably should read the fine print. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that was the name of that movie in the 70s, 71. The children did not read the fine print because it literally got so fine and so tiny, and also had that very legalese wording, obscure, that so few people understand. And so it is important to read the fine print whenever possible, when you can. Terms and conditions, when you're agreeing on websites and Apple and all that stuff, screw it. But in many cases, you should probably read the fine print. That is a very silly scene. There's the 2 scenes in Willy Wonka when the fine print comes up. First, when all the kids and the parents get to the place, and there's that big document on the wall, and there's big text, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're like, "What? I can't read anything." It's fine. It's fine. And then at the end, he brings out the contract, and I think he's got his half magnifying glass. Everything is half in that room for some reason. And then he specifically calls out the section that they did not read. They did not read the fine print. I don't think I've ever gotten screwed by not reading the fine print. At least nothing major enough that I can think of. Read the fine print. It is literally fine, and it is obscure. Whoo! Now we have finery or finery, 2 or 3 syllables. This is a noun from 1680. The synonyms are ornament and decoration, but especially dressy or showy clothing and jewels. Ooh, they're wearing their finery today when they got that top hat going, and the tails, and that blingy necklace. Ooh, that's some finery right there. They've ornamented themselves finely. Whoo! Now we have fines. Fines, F-I-N-E-S. Noun from 1880. It is finely crushed or powdered material, as ore, O-R-E, like, the things in the ground, but also very small particles in a mixture of various sizes. Fines. I'm trying to think of where have I ever heard of this used in this context? The fines. You're digging the fines out of the ground? The etymology says it's from the 3rd form of fine, which was that adjective at the beginning of this episode with all of those definitions, but it doesn't say which one. I mean, there were things about not coarse and stuff, but nothing specific. So, the fines. I go find some fines. Whoo! Now we have, how do you say this word? It is either finzerb or finerb. Finzerb or finerb. It is 2 words. First word is F-I-N-E-S. Second word is H-E-R-B-E-S. This is a noun from 1845. It is a mixture of herbs used as a seasoning or garnish. Just throw all the herbs together in this mixture. Maybe they are finely ground, possibly. I don't know. What's the etymology? If you couldn't figure out, it is French, and it literally means just fine herbs. That's it. So, are they finely ground, or are they the best herbs? Excellent herbs. Those herbs are fine. It is finzerb. Which is more accurate? finzerb, where you get the S at the end of fin? Or is it finerb? Because sometimes they don't pronounce the last letter in French of a word, but sometimes they add it back in depending on what the next word is. So I don't know what the proper rule is here. Okay. Whoo. Fine spun. One word, fine spun. Adjective from 1642. This is developed with extreme care or delicacy. Also, developed in excessively fine or subtle detail. And of course, I first think of fine spun thread that has been spun on that wheel very, very skinny. But this is developed with extreme care or delicacy, developed in excessively fine or subtle detail. What are we talking about? It could be lots of things that we're talking about here. It is fine spun. If you have done something very fine, very subtle, very delicate, that would be fine spun. Whoo! Now we have the word finesse. We are done with the fine words, I think, although I guess it's possible we'll have more in the next episode. Yeah, we got some more fine words coming. Okay, finesse. First form noun from 1528. Number 1, refinement or delicacy of workmanship, structure or texture. Now, clearly this is related to fine. It's just a different sort of form usage of it. Workmanship, structure, or texture. Yeah, it's all about working delicately. Ooh, when they were making the chocolate structure, they had to work with finesse. They had finesse. Number 2, skillful handling of a situation. Also, adroit maneuvering. So skillful handling of a situation. Maybe if there is somebody at the top of a building, you might need to use some finesse. The negotiator or a hostage situation. Of course, those are the first two when I think of a negotiator. They really got to use some verbal finesse to try and chill out the situation. Adroit maneuvering, of course, I think of handling of a car. You gotta work the car with finesse going down those windy roads. You gotta know how to hit the gas and brake and use the steering wheel in the proper ways. Not too much, not too little. When you're playing Mario Kart, you don't want to overturn the wheel. It was sometimes just a little finesse, just a little bit of movement. I remember teaching my younger cousin to play Mario Kart. Well, maybe this was Mario 64, Mario Kart 64 maybe. I think it was. And he would shove the joystick too far to one direction. I was like, no, you got to have some more finesse, man. You got to be chill when you're steering that wheel. Okay, number 3 for finesse. The withholding of one's highest card or trump in the hope that a lower card will take the trick because the only opposing higher card is in the hand of an opponent who has already played. What game are we talking about? I think of bridge. I don't really know bridge, but I think it has trumps and tricks and things like that. Trumps and tricks and travers. The withholding of one's highest card. So you're not going to play your highest card or your trump card in the hope that a lower card will take the trick. Ah, yes, because you want somebody else to take it so you can save that important strong card for later. Because the only opposing higher card is in the hand of an opponent who has already played. Aha, you're playing with finesse. Very delicate. Whoo! The second form of finesse. Oh, by the way, this is just from fin. The end. The second form of finesse is a verb from 1746. Starting with intransitive. Do we have transitive? Yes, we do. So intransitive is to make a finesse in playing cards. And that would be the one that we just talked about, which is maybe bridge or maybe some other trumpy game. Boy, I hate saying that word. Transitive, I gotta scoot this up even further now. Transitive number 1, to play a card in a finesse. Ooh, that was a finesse play that you did right there when you finessed your cards. 2A, to bring about, direct, or manage by adroit maneuvering, as in finesse his way through tight places. And that is a quote from Marquis James. What sort of tight places were these? Maybe they were crawling through some caves and they had to maneuver their body, finesse their body in certain ways. Contortionists would probably be very good cave divers. 2B, the synonyms are evade and skirt. Like, oh, I'm going to avoid that situation. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to finesse this way. The example is finesse the hard issues. We don't want to deal with them. We're just going to skirt around that. Finesse. Okay, no additional etymology. One more word. Whoo! It's the word finest. Finest. Noun from 1951. This is interesting. The synonym is police officers. It makes sense now because this is usually used with the possessive form of a city or area, as in the example, the city's finest. Yes, it is sometimes weird to see one of these additional forms of a word like fine, finer, finest. You don't usually see finer or finest, those forms, in the dictionary unless they have another usage, another definition that's a little bit different from the normal ones. The city's finest. Well, some people might have certain opinions on if they are the finest or not. That is just a word that we have been using because they're the ones who have chosen to put themselves in dangerous situations, to keep people safe. And but sometimes it goes a little too far. So are they the finest? That is up to your interpretation. All right, I don't think there's anything else on the next page from this page. So now we have to end this page by choosing a word of the episode. Today we had fine, 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 fine art, finely, fine print, finery, fines, fiendserb, or fiendserb, or just finerb, fine spun, finesse, finesse, and finest. Let's pick the one. Which one do I want to pick? Let's pick fine art as the word of the episode. Making fine art, painting stuff. I always like to make fine art. Making fine art with my farts. All right. I don't know how to make fine art with my farts, but I'm sure that it can be done. I'm going to tell you about a movie, which is the movie Carry On. Carry on, like you are literally taking a carry-on onto a plane or a train. And it is... The podcast How Did This Get Made did an episode about it recently, and it is very fun and funny. And it's a fun movie to watch if you want some sort of mindless action something. It's a fun movie. And they, of course, had a great time talking about it. And I don't know what to say. I mean, yeah, it's just fun. And there were multiple times we were like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But it's just a fun, popcorny action movie. Action, there's fights and chases and stuff. How actiony is it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's about a carry-on. That's it for today. Thank you so much for checking out this show. And until next time, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Fine.